country's requirements. Given our cordial relationship with the government, we wish to terminate the vaccine supply agreement. We hope that when the supplies are restored, we will be able to re-engage on new terms and follow the due process for that purpose. We look forward to continuing working closely with the government to further enhance the bilateral ties existing between our two brotherly countries. Please accept my highest commitment and assurance in this regard.
So clearly, are you saying that this company that demonstrated proof by making available some doses is simply saying it is unable to supply, and as we speak, per this letter, there is no contract?
Honorable Chair, if that is the implication, that is so. Faith in them to supply was winning. So we continuously started pushing pressure on them. They gave us July delivery, and it's like we have been pressurizing them to give us the vaccines to no serious avail. And then yesterday, they sent us, actually they gave us verbal invitation, verbal notice that they will not be able to supply any longer. And so we requested, they then terminate the agreement, which they had actually done. So as we sit here, I believe there's no contract between the two of us.
So, Honorable Minister, what becomes of the payment you've made so far, if any?
Honorable Chair, to the best of my knowledge, we haven't done any payment as yet.
I want to take you to Parliament now because the committee report is my colleague Joseph Gakpo, who is the parliamentary correspondent, has a copy of that. And they found out that an amount of 16 million cedis has indeed been paid to Al Maktoum. And of course, he's a sheikh that led to the two other gentlemen, middlemen, that promised to deliver the vaccines to us. Whereas, as you've heard there, the health minister indicate that, to the best of his knowledge, payments have not been made. Joseph, it appears to have lost Joseph there. We'll get Joseph back shortly because the matter with the report itself, it's supposed to come to the floor today as Parliament prepares to rise. That delay in laying it on the floor is a subject of some great controversy. Joseph will join us and fill in for us quickly. We'll also learn a bit more about the contents of the very important report that we've secured. We'll be interrogating a bit of the questions that has been raised in there shortly when Joseph joins us. But just as a sense of how this played out on the floor of Parliament a short while ago.
The minority leader arrested it on the grounds that there are some concerns regarding aspects of the report. So we have to further engage. Mr. Speaker, we engaged all night. And this morning, upon all that we did, there are still further concerns. Please, Honorable Muntaka, with respect, I am saying that there are some other concerns. The person having the concerns can own up and speak to it so that we discuss it. I am ever ready. I have signed a report. When it was due for distribution, an objection was raised. And to be fair, we have decided to hold back. Yesterday, we slaved on it up to 10 o'clock. And this morning, the understanding was that all that was to be done was done. And about to sign, a member raised a concern again. So we are here to sit because the majority leader has been involved in the matter. So we are here to sit. Nobody has placed this on the back burner. With respect, Honorable Minority Chief.
Honorable Members, I think the issue is why are the hospitals a priority over Sputnik report? You're only saying that the Sputnik report is not ready. Is that right?
The Speaker, in effect, it is not ready. And it's as a result of the minority seeking to get certain things in it. And we are obliging them. That is why it is not ready, because we want to oblige them. I need to put on record. Mr. Speaker,
Yes.
that is factually incorrect. He knows that. Because all the issues have been resolved. And even the few concerns that was seen was mentioned in the morning and has been resolved. He should go and bring the report. Why are you keeping the report? What is it indeed that you are hiding there? You are keeping the report. Bring it. Bring the report, because it's been long overdue with you. You finished hearing the matter in about just 1 week, and it's taking you more than 3 weeks to report to the House. You think that is fair to the House? Please, whatever the issue, bring it to the floor, because it is apparently clearly showing that your committee is incapable of resolving all the issues. That's why you are saying then bring it to the floor for us to deal with it, because this is a very important matter. We can't rise without dealing with it.
I'm dealing with the leadership issues first. Kindly hold on. Yes, but
Mr. Speaker, I take serious objection to the tone and the language from the minority chief whip.
Well, Joseph joins me on the telephone line. Joseph, so is this report on the floor now?
Not yet. And so eventually the House had to move on to other business, including seeking to approve a tax exemption for a hospital project. But eventually, the first Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Jose Usu, suspended sitting to allow for further consultation on that and other issues. So we are still awaiting the possible laying of the report, although the chairman of the committee has sought to be very emphatic that unless the concerns of the minority MPs are dealt with, he wouldn't want to go ahead and lay the report for the necessary debate and approval.
I see. Let's get to. Of course, we just had the Muntaka Mubarak raise a question about what is it in the report, for which reason it may be delaying. We are learning a bit more about this now. Let's start with the controversial subject of the 16 million that apparently had already been paid.
Precisely, the committee makes the point that as far as this said amount is concerned, it is something that when they double-checked beyond the testimony that the minister gave at the committee, they found out that apparently that said payment had been done. And so the committee says it found that an amount of $2.85 million, which represents about 50% of the contract sum of $5.7 million, had actually been paid to Al Maktoum. And this translates into the cedi equivalent of around 16.3 million Ghana cedis when you convert it at an exchange rate of 5.73. And that's what the committee is recommending, that as soon as possible, the finance minister should take the necessary steps to recover the full amount, not just even a bit of it, because then we know that out of that said request that was actually made, about 20,000 doses of the vaccine had actually been supplied, with the health minister, Kwajman Menu, again told the committee that those doses have been administered to individuals who administered the census some few months ago. And so, to the extent that there was no parliamentary approval for the deal, the committee wants the full amount recovered from Sheikh Al Maktoum.
And interestingly, some of the details regarding how much we've paid came from the Bank of Ghana. That's quite interesting.
Precisely. So the committee makes the point that it actually wrote to the Ministry of Finance, even after it had interrogated the minister, and the minister had insisted that no payment had been made. They went behind the minister and wrote to the Bank of Ghana, asking whether any amount had actually been paid in respect to the agreement with Sheikh Al Maktoum, as well as the separate contract with SL Global. And they also requested the payment instrument, if there was any. And then the committee says it actually received the said response from the Ministry of Finance. And the Ministry of Finance made the point that it actually received a request from the Ministry of Health in respect of the purchase of the vaccine from Sheikh Ahmed Al Maktoum, with regards to about 300,000 doses at a cost of the 5.7 million. And that request was actually dated the 10th of March. And it's out of that the said 50% was actually paid. So one of the revelations, Evans, that's coming from the work of this committee is that the said amount in question should have covered up to 300,000 doses. The said $2.85 million that was paid should have covered half of the amount for 300,000 doses and not the 20,000 doses that was eventually supplied.
So the committee then is suggesting that, and clarify this for our listeners, that we had actually paid far more than we actually got from Al Maktoum.
That's actually what the details of the reports are pointing to, because then the committee makes the point that out of the $5.7 million contract, 50% of that is what was supposed to have been paid with the request that went from the Finance Ministry to the Health Ministry on the 11th of March. And that 50% then amounts to the $2.85 million. And for that $2.85 million, Sheikh Al Maktoum was expected to have supplied up to 300,000 doses of the COVID-19 vaccines. And as we've come to hear, he only ended up supplying 20,000, which is less than 1/10 of what was expected of him. But he ended up being paid the said half amount of $2.85 million, to translate into 16 million Ghana cedis.
Yeah, and just for those who are wondering, if you look at page 21 of the document, of the report that we have, it states it clearly that I says the Ministry of Finance received a request from the Ministry of Health in respect of the purchase of Sputnik V COVID-19 vaccines from the office of Sheikh Ahmed Dalmouk Al Maktoum for the supply of 300,000 doses at the total cost of $5.7 million. The request from the Ministry of Health was dated 10th March 2021 and received at the Ministry of Finance on 11th, the next day. Under the clause 2.4 of the contract agreement, 50% of the payment was to be made through the establishment of site letter of credit, and the remaining 50% through confirmed letter of credit. Now it goes on, according to the Bank of Ghana, in the letter dated the 1st March, out of the total amount of the 5.7 million owed the Sheikh for the supply of, and this is mine, for the supply of the 300,000 out of the 50%, an amount of 2.8 million was paid, representing 50% having been paid to him, and that translates into the 16 million cedis that we've talked about. And so once you pay the 50%, they were supposed to deliver on the 30,000. When they deliver
300,000.
300,000. They're supposed to deliver on the 300,000. Once they deliver the 300,000, then you pay them the remaining 50% to cover the entire amount. And we've already paid for half, and they've only delivered 20,000. That is the clarity, in fact, that this brings. What about Joseph? What we are learning about the cabinet approval also, which has also become something that we are learning of. We knew about the Attorney General's lack of advice that was not taken, that go to Parliament, but there was also a revelation about cabinet.
The committee makes the point that they again gathered from the testimony that was given by the minister when he appeared before the committee that this particular deal is something that he as the ministry went into without requesting for any form of approval at the level of cabinet or even approval at the level of the presidency, and that after the efforts were made through bilateral moves to then acquire some of these vaccines from Russia directly had failed, the ministry then decided to then go ahead and engage in these transactions to allow for the supply by these middlemen. In fact, the minister, per the reports of the committee, even as we saw when he appeared before the committee in the public probe, disagrees with the whole idea that he dealt with middlemen as far as the purchase of these vaccines are concerned. He makes the point that he didn't exactly deal with individuals who call themselves middlemen to then use that term in describing them. He dealt with folks who are very much dealing in the health space, and he was very much convinced that they have the capacity to supply the vaccines in question, which was how come he engaged them. So he treated them not as middlemen, but as suppliers who he was hoping would make the said vaccines available to the Republic of Ghana.
Joseph, thank you very much. A lot of detail there, and I noticed in the document also that the part that references the minister's lack of approval from Parliament, that it was the minister's sole judgment to go ahead with this deal. In fact, he says it was only based on a ministerial decision having regard to the advice of the COVID-19 Emergency Operating Committee. So once the committee had advised him, he simply went ahead and made the payment. Okay, and the committee was paying to stress that on the matter of the 16 million that has already been paid, the minister they found evidence that they've actually made the payment, and quote, whereas the minister had said he had no knowledge of the payment under oath. under oath. I want to bring in lawyer Martin Kpebu, who joins us on the telephone line right now. Martin Kpebu, thank you for your time here on Top Story.
Yeah, you're welcome, Evans.
Let me ask you this: this matter of what the committee has found now, that indeed we've paid 16 million plus, and their stress that this finding is contrary to what the minister had told them. And I want to quote here. It says, whereas the minister said he had no knowledge of the payment under oath. The stress on under oath, does it have implications for the minister indeed? Because his words were, as far as I'm concerned, no payment has been made.
Yes. So we are headed for perjury. Yeah. So we are headed for perjury because under oath, don't forget, when they set up committees of parliament under the constitution and the standing orders, they give them powers of a high court. Okay. So if you come before a committee and then lie, we are headed for perjury. You see. So this is something, except that I'm not aware that we've developed strong this in practice in that area. But straight away, if that is true, of course, the minister has a right to challenge and ask for the record to see if the proceedings were recorded to find out. So maybe we would wait a bit and see, because he has a right, to challenge if he finds that, if he thinks he didn't say so. So until then, maybe for now we'll be a bit cautious of it, and if subsequently he doesn't deny, then we'll come down heavily on him. You see that so far everything is pointing in the direction of a person who is not fit for office. This minister has demonstrated from day one this confusion and everything he's talking. The more he talks, then the more he demonstrates that he's not actually fit for the position. Because he has all these technical advisors in the ministry. You have a chief director, you have a lawyer, and so on and so forth, and yet he chooses to work alone, Lone Ranger. So Lone Ranger falls into trouble. Yeah, he should take the fall. And yet he's running away, and you have people making news conferences and the rest to support him. This is a very lame excuse. So for me, Evans, I think we can stay on the matter of the perjury. Let's give him some time to come out and see if he challenges it, so that maybe the record will be played back. I hope they recorded the proceedings in Parliament so that we will then have a finality on that matter. But in the meantime, it will serve him well to just leave. He should just walk away from the job. I think the embarrassment is causing all of us. It's just too much.
So your position is that he should resign?
Oh, definitely. From day one, it's always been clear that this man should have gone a long time. I don't know why he pretends that he's the only one who can serve us in that capacity when he's demonstrated that he's not fit for that office.
I'll play shortly. You asked what you were hoping that the proceedings were recorded. They were. It was live. It was public, and so we have that recording. I played at the beginning. I'll play it again. But Kwame Saponsiru has been kind enough to be patient with us as we went through the findings for our audience. Kwame, I'm grateful and thankful that you were patient enough to hold. What's your initial reaction to the committee's report?
Number of conversations with you on this issue. And I started commenting about this issue as far back as February, if your memory serves you right. So I am not surprised at all. A lot of the things that have become evident are things that I've actually been writing openly on social media. For those who've been reading, I've been saying them when I've appeared on different programs. So for me, I'm not surprised. But there's one thing I'd want to draw Martin's attention to. And it is the issue about perjury that he's saying. There's a letter that I have in my possession dated the 3rd of August 2021 and signed by Alhaji Inua Yusuf, who is the head of legal affairs at the Ministry of Health. And he says that subsequent to the minister appearing, they found out that payments had been made through the Bank of Ghana to the Sheikh. And he's attached a number of documents. I'm quite sure at this point in time, because at the time I received it, I'm suspecting that Joy would have copies of that letter as well, so you can send it to Martin.
Do you know when? What's the date on this letter?
The letter is dated the 3rd of August.
Oh, okay. So this is literally
Subsequent.
Subsequent
Yeah,
to...
that's 3 days ago.
Okay, so you're
So
saying
they
this...
are saying subsequent to the appearance, it became apparent to them that payments have been made. So the question I ask, because if that letter turns out to be untrue, then we are down the track of what Martin said. If it turns out to be true, then we are now going down a honestness, because we then need to find out who went ahead and made a payment without the knowledge of the minister. Was the Minister of Finance in cahoots? Was the Paymaster General in cahoots? So then the net starts widening. So I am looking at it, and that's why I am not surprised. But the more I read this report, because I've read it about 3 times since I received it at lunchtime, and I just received this new letter virtually 35 minutes ago with attachments of the payments, with names, and I am not going through because it would be unfair to you, Evans, because it's just a letter that has come to light at this minute. But I am trying to say that it looks to me that the minister subsequently, together with his ministry, realized that he wasn't going to take the fall on his own. And if there were other people in the net, they need to be exposed. So we're heading for an interesting few days and weeks based on the revelations that are coming subsequent to this report leaking. Because when I was listening to you, based on what was going on in Parliament, there seems to be an issue as to whether even the person who chaired the committee is willing to let the report be debated in Parliament. I don't know if it's because of this new letter that I'm talking about. But whatever happens, a lot of people have access to the report now, and it would be disingenuous if any moves are made, especially with this new information coming to light.
I mean, let's talk about this new information. I mean, assuming it's accurate that this is subsequent, and that the health minister, after the time he was testifying, didn't know genuinely, and that this what came to his attention later. We know that according to this report again, it was the health minister that submitted to the finance ministry the request to make the payment.
Yes,
I mean, because yeah, go on.
Yeah, but that was, if you look at the trail of events, and that is why I'm particular about dates, that was on the 9th of March. The letter request for advance payment for the supply of doses of Sputnik vaccine is dated 31st of March 2021. It has the account number, the IBN number, the bank name, the SWIFT. I've got all those documents in front of me. Because you haven't seen it, that is why I'm holding back. But I'm quite sure now that you have copies, your network will be running through it. So that opens another window. Who authorized this payment? I can see signatures. I can see names. And I'm quite sure as it goes out, all these will come out. So for me, it looks that Pedri possibly, but there's a bigger net. Do I believe the minister was blindsided? I'm not too sure at the moment. But the more I review these, the more I start questioning. Yes, parliamentary approval might not have been sought. Cabinet approval might not have been sought. But it looks like there were more people in cahoots.
Martin, does this change anything? Does this latest revelation change anything for you?
No. Rather, it's strengthening the argument about perjury, because now from what Mr. Siedu has, that the minister signed the letter dated 31st March, right?
No, Martin, let me correct you. It wasn't signed by the minister. This letter is signed, actually, these are correspondence between the Bank of Ghana and the Ministry of Finance. And that is why I'm questioning whether the minister was aware these things were going on, because the minister is now writing to say, after his appearance, these documents have come to his knowledge. And his letter saying these documents have come to his knowledge are dated the 3rd of August, which is 3 days ago. And that is why I'm saying, do we still operate in the realms of perjury? It's a question I'm asking.
Okay, Evans, let's step back this way. Do you see that some vaccines were delivered? Are we saying that without payment, the agreement? So look at it. Look, I think you should refer to it. Look, this matter shouldn't detain us here. The agreement says that there is a site LC, okay, 50% site LC, and then the other 50% a confirmed LC. So what was delivered? Didn't we get some of the vaccines?
We got 20,000.
Yes. So when you get 20,000, then what do you call it? The Sheikh's office would then present the LC for part payment. Pay, because once you show what you've delivered, they'll pay you accordingly.
The problem, though, again with the findings of the committee is that it appears we've paid for 300,000 when we've received 20.
Yes, because the agreement says a site LC when there is delivery. So far, look, it's not appearing that this story that the minister didn't know. Look, Evans, I'll stick out my neck. That is an afterthought, because he himself signed an agreement that when they deliver, okay, they have the LC to go. That the Sheikh's office has the LC to go take. So, as the minister, is he aware that he got 20,000 vaccines? I'm not sure that is something he's denied. So he's saying that he received 20,000 vaccines how many months ago, and to date, the supplier has not been paid. What kind of cock and bull story is this? Oh, this man should spare us. Evans, let's go over this. So, Mr. Ajimameni is telling us that he received 20,000 vaccines in Ghana. Mr. Ajimameni, who was so concerned about saving our lives, received 20,000 vaccines and didn't pay for that. Months on. It's not even like 1 week later where we could say, oh, he was still in his state of confusion and all that he mentioned. Okay? Yes. Months on. He's saying he has received 20,000 vaccines. He has saved some lives, and that it never occurred to him that, oh, these vaccines are received. Have I paid for them or not? Oh, it's not credible. It's just not credible. I don't think we deserve such a shabby treatment. I mean, for crying out loud, this is a country he's dealing with. The ministry is not his private business. I don't know why he keeps thinking that he can treat the ministry like his private business. Evans, you just look at this. We need to talk beyond this. You received 20,000 vaccines months on, and you say you don't care for the supplier, whether he's been paid or not. No, this is not credible.
Kwame, very finally, so what should happen now, based on all that you know? What's your recommendation?
Based on what I know, it doesn't look good. I mean, Israel, Evans, we cannot run away from the obvious in the report. I struggle to see how this report would not eventually get debated, and I struggle to see how much reductment can be done, especially when this report is with parliamentary correspondents of a lot of the media houses. The minority are acknowledging that the report is ready. We've all heard the deliberations. The chairman of the committee takes exception to it. This latest development has come. I was only supplying the information because I'm not a legal brain so that Martin can address it. From where Martin sits, that even makes the whole issue murky. So for me, we need to go after the 16 million. It is clear it's been paid because I have the transaction details.
Or simply pay for the 20,000 they actually delivered.
No, already they have the money. The IBNAs, if anyone who's done international transactions knows, once the money has been transferred and you've used someone's SWIFT or IBNA, the money is in the person's account. The money has been paid. I think my gut feeling, based on what's in the report and this latest information that has come out, is obviously when the parliamentary subcommittee finished, they will present it to the minister for the minister to see it and have a response.
I guess that's why they're recommending that the finance minister recovers that amount.
Yes. So at that point, then the health minister then writes back to them to say, actually, this is new information too. And based on that, is trying to absorb himself and saying, well, at the time I spoke, I didn't know this money has been paid. Martin is trying to tell us that doesn't add up. Looking at the sequence of events, looking at the dates of the letters, do I believe that the minister is right? The jury is out.
Very interesting days ahead indeed on this matter. Thank you very much, Tenkwe. Thank you very much, Kwame Sapasiru. You want to read the full details on myjournal.com. We'll post the report there. It's so many issues. in that it still needs a lot of interrogating. You want to stay with my jaw online for the full details of that. Listen, News Night ends now, but Ghana Connect begins right now.